Welcome back to the channel, and it seems like we may be headed into even more interesting times than what we're experiencing right now. Remember, recently we were talking about the possibility of Ripple acquiring many more companies strategically, and why were we discussing that? Well, we looked at an article that was going into detail about how weak all of these businesses really are. They're in a very precarious position, where they either have to upgrade fully or they can't upgrade and they have to sell, which means they have to be acquired by someone. So right now, this is what we were talking about before. Right now, if there was ever a time, and this is what I was trying to convey, to acquire everything that you need strategically to put more pieces on the chessboard, it's right now. And that's great for XRP. So we have an article right here that sort of confirms what I've been saying. You're going to hear it from the horse's mouth. We begin here. This article is titled "Ripple Eyeing Multiple Acquisitions and Ethereum-like Upgrades for the XRP Ledger Blockchain." Now, I'm interested to see if they elaborate a little bit more on what these Ethereum-like upgrades are, because I feel like maybe the article writer is just phrasing it that way, believing Ethereum's name brings in views, and it probably does. But I would like to see if what they're really talking about are those advanced mechanisms that Ripple was talking about that we know about, because we've been to the xrpl.org. We read about all of those 2-3 years ago, and they're much better now than they were then. But I think maybe that's what they're talking about. And if it is, and I think the article, I think it was yesterday's article. Did you see yesterday with the ECB and all that, the central bank and XRP? If you didn't, go watch that video. And if you like this type of content, boom, see that finger coming down? That finger is powerful. Boom, hit that like button. But I think that's what they were hinting at, because they were talking about special mechanisms and breaking up payments. That sounds like payment channels, does it not? Yes, it does. What does that mean, folks? If they're doing more payments, they're in the system for longer, there's more XRP being used, that price goes up, it becomes more rare. Remember, what's the difference? Not remember, but just perceive. What's the difference between them holding XRP and XRP constantly being in flow? Either way, it's not on the exchanges. Either way, that makes XRP become more rare. And one more time, either way, more XRP is being burned because of transactions and such. Every time there's a transaction, some XRP is being burned. And that, as well as the more companies they're going to be bringing in, you have to have a little bit of XRP in that account to have that, what do they call that? It's been so long, but you have to have a little bit of XRP to have an XRP wallet. My apologies, on the XRPL. I beg your pardon. So now let's scroll down here, read a little bit more about what's going on. So as I say, you're going to hear some things, powerful things from the horse's mouth. It begins here. Ripple, the company behind XRP, one of the world's largest cryptocurrencies, made waves when it purchased prime broker Hidden Road earlier this year. No doubt about it. That was special. It won't stop there, according to Ripple Chief Technology Officer David Schwartz. It says, quote, "Our M&A, I said MMA. That's right. You know where my mind is. Our M&A people are very busy," unquote, the executive told DL News in New York. DL News has been doing a good job. They're on it. They really are. It says here, quote, he has some more to say. "We have multiple potential acquisitions in various stages, from early stages to late stages." We're headed for interesting time, folks. Once we get the names of what's being acquired, then we can go over numbers. Then we can go over the utilization of XRP. Then we can look into who they're connected to. All of that has to do with the money. I don't know about you, but I'm here for that bank money. Don't get me wrong. Over the years, we've done very well with crypto. For sure, we definitely did. But we're here for that bank money. And even more than that, I'm going to tell you the truth. I want that victory over the banks. I want that victory, the big one. The white whale, Moby. We're close. Spear is in hand. We're close. So now, it continues on. Ripple is the creator of the XRPL. We know that. Let's scroll down, see if there's a little bit more here. Crypto M&A. Schwartz said Thursday, those efforts are ongoing. Of course, they're in negotiations. And buoyed by, this is my humble opinion, and buoyed by a relative lack of interest from titans of traditional finance. It says, quote, there's a unique opportunity right now for cryptocurrency companies to acquire companies that create strategic value, like hit and roll acquisition. Wait a minute, folks. Listen to what he just said at the top. Let's go back there for a moment. Don't let that pass. Schwartz said Thursday those efforts are ongoing and buoyed by relative lack of interest from titans of traditional finance. Why is that? Why aren't the titans of traditional finance trying to do these acquirements right now? Because they're in trouble themselves. They're in trouble themselves. They're trying to figure it all out themselves. They're in the same position as those that they would traditionally be thought to acquire. They're in the same position. They need liquidity. They need bridge currencies. They need better efficiency. They need to come out of the Stone Ages, so to speak. So they're not in a position to do these things. But guess who is? Ripple, Hedera, Chainlink, these different very powerful and innovative bank coin companies. I could keep going. I could go on and on about that. That's why they're not in position. But that's great. You know why? What that means? More to choose from. That we get the better choices. Pick of the litter, as they say. And that means more capital will come into XRP. There's no way it stays cheap. And it's funny that David Schwartz is the one delivering this information because he's the same one that let everyone know XRP can't be dirt cheap. What is dirt cheap to you? I keep asking that question. What's dirt cheap to you? It's $2 or $5. Was dirt cheap 50 cents? Come on now, $2 for something this massive? But yet we read an article a few days back where they went into detail of 8 large financial entities getting into XRP. You perceive that they're getting the XRP for nothing? No, they want that big money. They know the explosion's right there. They know times are changing. They need the best of the best, especially when it comes to being a bridge currency or liquidity, etc. They need a great network, whether they call it RippleNet, whatever name they're going by this week. As Ripple changes that name, they've done it a time or two. It doesn't matter. As long as they use it and XRP is in use, that's all I care about. But wait, there's more. There's more. It says here, quote, another quote. It says, and we're definitely aggressively looking for those opportunities. Let me pause right there. There's more, but let me pause there for a moment. Think about this. If they're aggressively looking into acquirements, then what do you think they're doing when it comes to partnerships? You know the answer already. This is an aggressive company. They're aggressively going after partnerships, I would assume. And I think I'm assuming properly. If this is what they're doing with acquirements, and we've seen over the years, Ripple's was actively building even during the bloody bear market where the whole of the world was coming against crypto. They didn't stop. What do you think they're doing now? They're feasting. Pay attention to people's body language. Every time we see a representative from Ripple now, they're smiling, they're happy, they're giddy. There's a reason for that. There must be victories getting racked up for them to feel so good. Things are going right. And it's not just because of regulations, etc. No. That happens, that energy. I know what that's like. I know what that's like. I've been in championship rounds before. That's when someone's winning. You only feel that way when you're on top of the world and you're basking in it because you know it doesn't last forever. They must have a multitude of partnerships, as we already know. Who are those? Why did they come out and say they had all these central banks that we didn't know about? Why tell us that? They want you to know they're successful. They want to. A lot of people like that. You want to show people your trophy. You want to show them your medals that you win at the tournaments. These companies are no different. But because of NDAs, they can't do it outright. But that doesn't mean that doesn't mean that they don't want to be celebrated. So they tell you something like what they did a few weeks back. Oh, we have a lot of central banks. Some of them you know about, some of them you don't. I'm paraphrasing, but anybody can find these articles. Why do they say that? Who are these central banks? Who are they connected to? If they have those central banks, Ripple provides a network, which means that for that to function properly, there would have to be a great multitude of banks working with that central bank for the mechanisms to function properly. But wait, how much value is the average bank moving per day, per month, per year? And see, when you start to dive into that type of stuff, see, you ask some good questions. I'm glad you asked that question. Yeah, I'm putting it on you. I'll bring you in, though. I bring you in. We're like a team. And I give you positive encouragement too. That's good, right? That's rare in the world. Now, when you start looking into that and you're asking those good questions like you do, then you start to realize, you start crunching those numbers. I don't care if you do it with a calculator, regular calculator, or you use AI, whatever. You start crunching those numbers and you start to see, wait a minute, the price of XRP is looking astronomical. See, I'm gonna let you see it on your own. I'm gonna let you do your own numbers. Not let you, but you know what I mean. I hope you do your own numbers. Non-financial advice. It starts looking real good, doesn't it? Indeed it does. Knowing things for yourself, seeing it for yourself is the best thing ever. That's how I look at it. No matter what it tells you, if you feel positive on something, at least you know it for yourself. If you feel negative on something, at least you know it for yourself. I'm about knowing things for oneself. So now you have that going, okay, there's more. Let me not miss out on this. He continues, he says, because it seems like Wall Street hasn't quite caught on yet. Uh-oh. Well, once again, just take a look at what's going on in the world. Are they really in that position? They can't. I said this before. Did I not say they can't compete with us? Haven't I been saying that? They can't compete with the bank system, the new financial system, the bank coin companies. They can't. That's why they try to hold everything back for so long. Well, that's one of the main reasons. Another reason is that they needed to try to catch up with the technology. Either that or merge with the technology. They found out they can't catch up with the technology, so now they're merging with it rapidly. Give that about a year and a half. 73% of them are not into crypto yet. That's a lot of money on the table. Boom, boom. I want that money. I don't know about you. I'm here for that big money. So there is that. See, and he goes further. He's given a lot of information for those who have ears to hear and eyes to see. It says they're not competing to acquire the companies. Of course not. Of course, they can't. They can't. And I know David, he doesn't want to say that. He can't say that. He's a businessman. They're trying to make partnerships. He cannot offend them, but I don't have that problem. I'm just going to tell you the flat out truth. They literally cannot do that right now. They can't. And to be quite honest, I don't know that they want to step on the bank coin companies' toes right now to compete with them in that particular way when they know they have to benefit from them. I mean, it's a little bit of a conflict of interest there. Not that they couldn't do that. They could do such, but that would be quite ignorant. I could delve a little deeper than that, but I don't think I have to. So now let's go here. We have another article, a little bit more XRP news. A lot of things happening with the bank coin companies as of late. You saw the stuff that's happening with Solana as of the last few weeks. Things are looking really, really good when it comes to crypto, the top cryptocurrencies overall. Now, this article is titled XRP Ledger Drives Real World Asset Growth as Ripple Expands Compliance-Focused Offerings. This is nothing. If you like what's going on now, you're going to love what's happening in the future, in my humble opinion, because things are going to be moving exponentially more than what they're doing now. It says institutional momentum surged at Apex 2025, Ripple's flagship summit, revealing XRP Ledger's growing role in global finance with stablecoins, tokenized treasuries, compliance features. This was held on June 10th through 12th. It says, quote, the conversations, launches, and energy at Apex 2025 all point to one thing. The XRPL is becoming a backbone for institutional grade finance. I agree with that. And I'm happy about that because I'm here to make money off of XRP. Make no mistake about it. That is my interest. It says here, quote, Ripple emphasized on June the 24th. It says, they continue what they're saying here. There's a quote from them. From all new compliance-focused features and unlocking institutional use cases to stablecoins and tokenized government bonds, the XRP ledger is evolving to meet the needs of modern finance without compromising its public decentralized foundation. Ripple CTO David Schwartz and RippleX head of product Jazzy Cooper highlighted XRPL's shift toward tokenized assets and stablecoins. HSBC's Zhu Kwang Lee and Ripple's Fiona Murray discuss HSBC's blockchain integration for asset tokenization and institutional custody. And it's getting interesting, isn't it, folks? Yes, it is. Imagine how much is going to expand out of that. See, these initial things, while they are significant, I always look at how they may outwardly expand. Ripple President Monica Long, CEO Brad Garlinghouse, and Pat Patel from Global Finance and Technology Network explore global regulations. We're going to dominate the globe. I told you that years ago. Now you're seeing it. Everyone needs this technology and they need to all be on board. This is why you have the pressure from the BIS on everyone. You have the pressure from SWIFT on everyone. Which way is SWIFT leaning? Is SWIFT leaning away from DLT or towards DLT? If you answer that question, it's going to tell you a lot, and you know the answer. Keep an eye on SWIFT activity over the next, I'm going to say 8 months. And I could be wrong. Maybe it's a little bit longer than that. Forget a timeline, but keep an eye on SWIFT activity. Keep an eye on their verbiage, what they're saying. If they say something, read the article. If they host a meeting, read the transcript if you can find it. And I think that that's going to give us a glimpse into what is to come. I'm almost certain of it. They're already working with Chainlink. They said they were going to work with 4 to 5 more companies. Who are they? Are they already doing that? They're probably having conversations. I'm pretty sure. I'm very suspicious of Swift and Ripple. There's no way they're not on the phone, haven't been for the last few years. Now, Ripple is a mean motor scooter. They're tough, is what I mean. They know how to negotiate to put themselves and XRP in the proper position. So that's not going to go how the same way a Chainlink negotiation is going to go, considering the part that XRP plays, considering the positioning of Ripple. But if it does happen, and I think I'm pretty sure they're in discussions. And this is why you're never going to hear them talk about it. They can't. They're not even going to mention that. Oh, have they been on the phone with them? Have they not been on the phone with them? Someone ask them. See if they answer. You know, if you got the guts. But because I think negotiations will probably go so stiff between those two companies, you have one that's been dominating the world for a long time. Well, I don't mean to say companies, but those two, I'll just say entities. Let me say entities, right? Because Swift is a little bit ambiguous. It's a conglomeration of different banks, et cetera, you know. But I think the negotiations, as far as the technology is speaking, considering one has so much power and one is coming into power, that would be a little bit tougher, especially knowing that Ripple is pretty much, they're so similar to the IMF and other entities like that. They know that this is going to be a company that whatever deal they strike with Ripple, if they do such, it has to be the right deal. It has to be, because whatever position Ripple takes, they stand to be in that position for a long time and just rapidly gain power. And at that point, you're not going to have the same negotiation. You're not. It's not going to happen. So if I were Swift, I probably would take my time as well in the decision to deal with them. You know, they're going to benefit greatly. You benefit as well. You definitely do. But they're going to benefit greatly. And that change is permanent once you do that. And if that happens, my word, XRP's price will skyrocket just off of that alone. That's not even taking into account all these other catalysts. And I like to say the catalysts all the time to keep it fresh in people's minds. And we have a lot of new people as well. RWA, catalyst, interbank payments, catalyst, payroll, catalyst, offline QR code payment, catalyst. Some major stuff. Without any of that, the news that they work with Swift in the future, if that indeed does happen, boom, that price goes wild. And that's on my mind, because there's certain things I'm noticing. We'll get into that maybe in the next video. But let me squeeze in a little bit. I have another Bankcoin news article here. I have a couple actually, but I'll post those in the members only section. Let's cover a little bit of Bitcoin news, okay? Before the video gets a little long. Hope you're all doing fantastic out there. Hope you're being strong. Hope you're being healthy in your mind. Don't forget your mind. Don't forget your mind. Many people take care of their bodies. I see it all the time. They're strong in their body. No doubt about it. I've been up against some strong people. But what I've seen, folks, before we get into this Bitcoin news, what I've seen is a lot of people are strong physically, but they're not strong mentally. You must strengthen your mind. It's like being, and I'll just take wrestling as an example. I bet a lot of people, they can lift a lot of heavy weight. They're very strong against basic opponents. But once you put that pressure on them, you start tying them up. You're taking them down at will. They never felt that before. They've never been dominated before. You're head clubbing and stuff. You're just having your way with them, for lack of a better word. They mentally break. And I just ask myself, and this is what I also question people. I help them strengthen this in training. What do you do for your mind? You must strengthen your mind, whether you do it through reading books, reading some wisdom, absorbing some intellectual materials, maybe meditation. But your mind must be, I'll say this, I believe your mind must be stronger than your body. And I'll leave you with that. So now let's go here to a little bit of Bitcoin news. This is titled, U.S. futures hit record high, setting Bitcoin up for new peak. You do know I like that, right? I like it a lot. I took that from, some people don't know. Sometimes I ask people, where did I get that from? No, I'm just going to tell you. I got that from Jim Carrey, and I believe the movie was Dumb and Dumber. That's a wild movie, but if you want to have some fun, have just a good old laugh, the original, not the director's cut, the extended version, the original from, I think it was 1994. Dumb and Dumber, that was a good movie, fun movie. Anyway, that's where I got it from. So U.S. futures hit record high, setting Bitcoin up for new peak. I have to do like this, put that chapter in. U.S. stock futures have hit record highs, fueling analyst predictions that Bitcoin could soon break past resistance to hit a new price peak. Scroll down here past this giant picture. U.S. stock futures are at record highs as the country's largest markets are nearing their peaks, which could help propel Bitcoin to reach another all-time high, according to analysts. S&P 500 futures entered new all-time high territory on Thursday, with the index tapping 6,145 points, surpassing February's peak. The tech-heavy NASDAQ composite futures also hit a peak at 20,180. Around the same time, the S&P 500 has gained 23% since its April 8th crash as trade tariff shocks ease in a ceasefire. You know what that's about. Yeah. I'm not going to, it's YouTube, folks. I got to be careful. Stock futures are derivative contracts where traders agree to buy or sell specific stock index, such as the S&P 500, at a set price at a future expiration date. I probably shouldn't have read that. I'm preaching to the choir. They trade overnight and before open markets. Mick, why are you continuing? Because I already jumped in the pool. Might as well swim. Often providing insight and signals on how stocks might open the following day. Oh, thank you for that, Cointelegraph, because we definitely didn't know. Cointelegraph, like, come on, Mick. We got to fill this up with something, man. We need some fillers. All right. Bitcoin is ripe for all-time highs. Jeff May, chief operations officer at crypto exchange BTSE, told Cointelegraph that, quote, conditions are ripe for Bitcoin to surpass its previous all-time high of about $112,000. That is music to my ears. Go ahead, Bitcoin. Bring me that money. Especially given that the, certain conflict seems to be over. This is what they're saying here, okay? I'll leave that to them. Meanwhile, BitMEX founder Arthur Hayes posted to X on Thursday that Bitcoin all-time highs, quote, are coming, unquote. Yes, I also believe that. You should know that by now. I believe that we haven't seen anything yet. The catalysts are too big. They all haven't even gotten in yet. There's no way that whatever you see today, that Bitcoin's price is, that in the future it's that price. And I don't mean it's going lower either. Either. I like to say either, but either feels more powerful. Words carry power. I mean, I don't see Bitcoin being below $150,000 for very long. I just don't. I think over the next year, you see it shatter through that barrier. Everything that I've seen, all the catalysts I've seen indicate that. And I'm not a know-it-all. I could be wrong, but I don't believe I am. I think I'm seeing what's really there, naked of all illusion. Nations wanted. How does that affect the price? People learning that nations wanted, which right now they don't know that. Go outside and just talk to people about Bitcoin. Ask them if they know about countries wanting Bitcoin. Ask them if they know about states wanting Bitcoin. And see, and that'll tell you a lot right there. They'll jump in once they learn that information. There's a lot of big money on the side. Don't forget the cash pile on the side. Why hasn't it moved majorly? What is it waiting on? They told us, oh, I was waiting on the stock market, but wait, it hasn't gone there yet. So what magical situation are they waiting on to move that into the stock market? Clearly, they're not waiting on the stock market. I believe they're waiting on crypto. So we shall see. I think Bitcoin is looking very, very good right now. 10x Research head of research, Marcus Thielen, told Cointelegraph that, quote, notable dovish shift is emerging, unquote, among Fed leadership, but the market remains constrained. It says, quote, many traders have written covered calls against their Bitcoin holdings, which is suppressing both price momentum and volatility. All right. So now that you have that information, what are you going to do with it? Bitcoin is super duper bullish. It remains so. So now that you have the information, what are you going to do with it? I know what I'm going to do with it. So until next time, everybody, let's get to the money.